you everyone for joining me this evening. I'd like to have a bit of a theme with my classes and with my practices. So the kind of theme that I'm going for this week is stability. We are in a little bit of an unstable world at the minute, so let's bring some stability to our body and our practice. Focus tonight specifically is going to be on stability through our legs and through our hips in particular. There's loads of poses that we do in class in which we need to have our hips square. And you'll hear that saying a lot, have your hips square, and a lot of people maybe don't know what it means or what it feels like in your body. So we're going to be running through class to work on hip stability, leg opening, etc. So there's going to be a couple of things that we're going to do so that you can really embody basically how that feels. So to start off, we're going to have our hips nice and open. So if you're on your back, perfect. We're just going to bring the soles of our feet together. So our toes are, and the balls of our feet are together, our heels are together, and our knees are going to fall out to the side. The distance between your torso and your feet is just however wide you want to make it. It's the start of class, you've maybe been sitting in a desk all day. So just make it as comfortable for you as you can, and then lying back on your mat. So just letting the weight of your body just open up those knees slightly. And we are going to hold this for a minute or so don't bring yourself too far into the pose so it's uncomfortable. And just take a couple of breaths, let go a sigh. Just finding a couple of moments of stillness. Maybe you have just finished work for the day and your mind is still racing a little bit. So just giving yourself and your body and your mind a couple of moments just to embrace some peace. Remembering that this practice is for you and nobody else. So ensuring that everything that you do in class today feels good in your body and you're not pushing yourself into too far. This is a chill yoga class, so we want to make sure that we're leaving feeling nice and open. And if anything doesn't feel good in your body, remember just to back out of the pose slightly, maybe give it another try, and knowing that child's pose is always an option for you. And we're just going to do a couple of rounds of Bhamari breath, which is also known as bumblebee breath, and it's a really good way of grounding down. It's quite a solid breath, shall we say. So we're just going to bring our hands to our tummy, so just below your belly button, and a hand just across your heart. And with the bumblebee breath, it's like we're doing a hum on our exhale. So I'm just going to do one round by myself so you can listen to what I'm doing. So my mouth is closed and I'm humming deep into kind of this, think about breathing into that space in between your eyes. So you're going to inhale. So that your tongue is going to come to the roof of your mouth and you're going to let it be a really long exhale. So even though we're not practicing together, we're going to sync up our breath. So deep inhale together, exhale out a sigh, inhale, and then 3 rounds of Bhamari breath. Just in your own time, taking another inhale, exhaling out with your Bhamari. And one more time, even deeper inhale, filling all the way up to your collarbones, and a long exhale out your bumblebee breath. Taking another inhale and exhaling out a sigh, and just feeling those vibrations that the breath created wash over your body. We'll now do that breath with a class full of students. It's quite entertaining, as you can imagine. It just sounds like a swarm of bumblebees. So it's quite a nice grounding breath for us to start with. And it allows us to easily elongate our exhales. Knowing that we are moving with our our breath in class tonight, so allowing that to guide you. Just bringing your hands to the outside of your knees and then just closing your knees together, placing the soles of your feet on the ground. And then just, if you need to, just grabbing your block or your book and then coming to lie back down. So you should be able to just about touch your ankles, and your knees need to have about a fist distance in between. We're going to take our block, we're going to place our block between our knees. So this giving us this activation of the outer hips starting to work. Now on an inhale, you're going to push into your heels and lift from our back all the way up, so that we create like a nice straight line from our knees all the way down to our shoulders. Now placing your palms of your hands just the outside edges of your hips, so you can kind of feel the bony parts of your hips. And you'll see that your hands are almost like a mirror image, they're exactly the same. So it's if you were to lift your hands up, your hands would go straight up in the air. So at the minute our hips are nice and square, they're facing directly in front, and in order for them to be square, we're engaging all around them. So we're engaging our low back, our glutes, the side of our legs, our tummy muscles, our hip flexors are all working, and that's a really stable position to be in. So staying for one more inhale and then exhale, we're going to lower it down. So before you want to go into any mobility, we want to make sure that we are stable. If we aren't stable and we go into any mobility, there's a risk of injuring ourselves. So keeping that block in between our knees, inhale, reaching up again. And just taking a couple of breaths here. Think about squeezing your knees towards that block, so really activating through our legs, through our glutes. Maybe being able to lift those hips a little bit higher, and then exhale to roll it down. On an inhale, rolling up, and this time as we roll up and we reach the top of that pose, we're not going to pick up our feet, we're going to come onto our tippy toes here. So both high on the balls of our feet. You might feel more engagement through our glute here. Keep thinking about where our hips are, hips up, making sure our right hip or our left hip isn't dropping down. And then exhale to lower it back down. Just removing the block this time, just setting it over to the side. We're going to do that 2 more times of mixing up each time. So an inhale, lifting our hips up, then really grounding into our right foot, keeping those hips nice and square. We're going to peel our left foot up and just reaching our left leg in line with our body, so not too high. Squeezing that right glute, making sure that left hip isn't dipping down. Bring our left foot back and rolling all the way back down. Staying for an exhale here. And then your next inhale, lifting those hips up. And this time grounding down to our left foot as we reach our right foot out in front. Being active through our toes here, so either flexing them or pointing them. And thinking is our right hip down or our hips square, lifting your hips through a nice straight line. Bring our right foot back, exhale down, and then just bring our knees into our chest. We're just going to do a couple of little circles with our knees here. So we start to massage into our low back, maybe changing direction. So activating all through our legs to keep those hips nice and safe. Now we're going to come into everybody's favourite, the core. The core is still very important when it comes to our hips. It helps to keep our tailbone nice and neutral as well. So we're just going to tabletop our legs. So our knees are going to be in line with our feet. I should probably say your feet are going to be in line with your knees, that would make more sense. Now our block isn't in between our legs, but still imagining your block was there, still that hugging action, but your knees aren't going to touch. So as if you had a rubber band around your knees. Keeping the exact same bend in your knee and using your hip as a hinge, you're just going to drop your right tip toes down to the ground and then pick them back up. On an inhale, drop your left tip toes down. Exhale, bring them back up. Inhale, right toes down, and exhale back up. And just keep doing that with your own breath. Slowly bringing them down and then bringing it back up. Keeping that activation as if you were hugging your knees in. So inhale to dip it down, just as if you're dipping it in water, and exhale back up, keeping that 90-degree angle with your knees at all times. So down, bring it back up. We're going to do it 2 more times on each side. You probably feel your deep core stabilizers starting to kick in. And then once you've done it your 2 more times on each side, bringing your knees in towards your chest, rocking from side to side. Maybe exhaling out a sigh. Then just taking a couple of rocks and rolls just in the spine, just to bring us up to a comfortable seated position. And we're going to come into a pose here on our knees. So if you have any knee sensitivity and you want to just add a little bit of padding, you're welcome to just bring your blanket. So my knees, I don't know if it's just all that running we're being forced to do because the gyms aren't open. My knees are not living life right now. So I'm going to pad mine up. So we're just going to come to sit on our heels, not here. So we're going to come into broken toe pose. You might have done this with me before. So a broken toe pose sounds scary. We're just going to look to open up basically the sole of the foot. So really stretching into the sole of the foot. So you're going to pick your hips up so you're directly on top of your knees. And you're just going to tuck your toes under. Now you might need to use your hands just to make sure all your toes are under. So the last two, like your pinky toe and your ring finger toe, I don't know what it's called. Just make sure that they're all tucked in and under, and your feet are directly in front. So you don't want your ankles splaying out or splaying in. So on an inhale, you're going to rise up here, making sure you're really sinking the weight into your toes. And then exhale, we're going to sink our hips down. Turn your palms to face the ceiling. Roll our shoulders back, close our eyes and take some breaths here. And you'll start to feel those tiny, tiny little fibers in the fascia and the sole of your foot start to open up. If this does get too intense at any point, just bring your weight forward. So come on to your hands and knees. Just breathing into it. And the reason why we're doing this is that stability and strength all comes from our feet. We think their feet are what plant us to the earth every day. So we need them to be nice and open and nice and active in order for the rest of the body to get that stability. We're going to take 2 more breaths here. Exhaling out a sigh if you need to, making sure you're sending your inhales right to the soles of your feet. And then slowly bringing your hands onto the mat, and you're going to scrunch your toes up. Might feel a bit funny, and then just tapping them on the ground. Very good. So that is our connection to the earth. So giving our feet that little bit of attention once in a while just allows us to have that bit slightly more tactile feeling with the earth. So you can keep your padding here, like I said, if your knees are feeling not great. We're going to come into a melting heart pose. So hips directly above the knees, and we're going to walk our hands forward so that our chest comes down to the ground. Hands can be as wide as your shoulders need them to be, hips up nice and high. So doing a quick check-in with your hips. So are they square, or do you feel like you're lifting one higher than the other? But then we exhale, thinking about sending our heart down towards the earth, and you'll feel a nice opening in your underarms. Starting to stretch out the back a little bit. And imagining we had that rubber band this time around our hips. So you want to think about slight activation, slightly pulling our hip bones away from one another. We're going to come into a side stretch here, keeping that activation in your hips so that they're still parallel to the ground. Just walking our hands slightly over to the right hand side, making sure that your left hip isn't dipping forward. So if you do this pose with me quite a lot, don't go as far over to the right as you usually would. The focus in this is keeping those hips square and getting a bit of a stretch on the left hand side. Taking one more breath on this side. And exhaling, walking your hands this time over to the left hand side. You might just need to lift your gaze slightly to get there. This time making sure our right hip isn't dipping back. Slight restriction through our core here, just pulling your belly button up a little bit. And giving your neck a little bit of space in this pose. So if your shoulders are up near your ears, maybe just walk your hands further apart. And then inhaling through the center, walking your hands back so that they're directly underneath your shoulders. And we're going to come into our good old favourite cat-cow. So inhale, drop the belly down, peel the chest open, roll the shoulders onto your back. And exhale, push the ground away, tucking the tailbone under. One more time on each side, taking it as slowly as you want, and inhale to open your chest into your cow. I do these in literally every class, they're amazing. And then exhale, pushing away into your angry cat. And then coming through to centre. So this is where things are going to get a little bit fun with the old block or your book. So taking it, coming into all fours. So our knees are directly underneath our hips, shoulders underneath our, hands underneath our shoulders. We're going to have a slight constriction through the front body here. So we don't want to be completely sunk down and we don't want to be puffing up. You want to find a nice neutral point here. So feeling your low belly just pulling up. You're going to get your block and you're going to place it along the small of your back. So literally just at where your back curves from your bum and gets flat. So basically on the back of our pelvis. Now we're going to move and the block is going to try and stay in that place. If it falls off, absolutely fine. You can put it back. So on an inhale, you're going to reach your left hand forward and palm is going to spin in. Finding the stability there. And then shifting your weight slightly into your left knee, we're then going to pick up our right foot, and our right foot is going to go directly behind us. Toes are going to spin down towards the ground, so our hips are in that nice squared off shape. So you don't want this foot waving around the place. Keep pushing into the ground, and then trying to keep that block nice and stable as we keep our hips stable. We're going to bring our knee in towards our tummy and our elbow back to meet our knee. Now usually we puff up the space between our shoulder blades. For this week we're just going to keep our back nice and neutral. Reach it out again on an inhale. Exhale, bringing the knee in towards the elbow. Doesn't matter if they don't meet. Inhale to reach it out, keeping that block nice and steady. Bringing them in to meet. And then reaching out, placing your hands and your foot back down. And if you want to just re-shiggle that block, if it did move about a bit, you can. So seeing how stable we need to be in our hips when we're doing movements like this. So any movement you do in yoga where we've got our leg up behind us, so think about three-legged down dog, half moon, or standing split. This is the position we want our hips to be in. So now on to the other side. So grounding down to that left hand, reach the right hand forward. And right hand is going to be almost like an extension of our right hip here. So we're reaching all the way in front. So if you're reaching to grab something. And then our left leg's going to come behind us. Toes spin down to the earth. Keep squeezing those hips in. Inhale here. Then exhale. Bring our knee towards our elbow. And then inhale to reach it out. Knee in towards our elbow. Reach it out. Keeping our leg in a nice straight line. Not letting it waver to either side. And then reach it out. And then bringing our hands back down to the mat. Very good. And we're just going to sink down onto our hips and just give our wrists a little bit of a shiggle out. Obviously the block will no longer be on your back for this. Just to give our wrists a little. And then coming back into that position, placing our block back onto our lower back. We're just going to come into some glute engagement here. So we're coming into fire hydrant pose here. I'll let your imagination decide why it's called that. With your right knee, you're just going to pick your right knee directly out to the right hand side. And then bring it in. Lift it again. Don't let that knee touch the earth. And bring it in. If your block folds, it's fine. And then lift it up. And then bring it back in. Same on the left hand side. Picking your left knee up to the left hand side. And then bring it back in. Inhale, lift. Exhale, bring it in. Inhale, lift. And exhale to bring it in. Very good. Now you can place your block over to the side. We're done doing funny things with it. And we're going to sink back to child's pose. So I'm just going to move my blanket out of the way. So knees nice and wide, toes together, sinking back to child's pose. We're just going to come into a flow from our child's pose back to our cobra. We're going to move with our breath here. So on an inhale, you're going to sneak your chest forward, keeping your chest as close to the mat as you can, coming all the way forward into our cobra. And exhale, pushing back to our child's pose. Going to do that 2 more times. Inhale to sneak forward. Elbows squeeze in, chest nice and open. And exhale back to child's pose. And one more time. Keeping your chest as low to the ground as you can. And then lifting at the last minute, coming into your cobra. And exhale. Pushing back to your child's pose. And then coming back up into our all fours here. Picking up our left leg directly behind us. So keeping that angle, so just like when we did our toe taps, keeping that angle in our knee, we're literally going to pick our leg back up behind us, keeping our hips as neutral as we can, bringing our knee back in, picking it up again. So imagine there's a tray on your foot whenever you reach your top position. So just someone could place your block now on your foot. Bring it back in, make sure your ankles aren't doing anything funny. Picking it up. And this time you're going to bring your foot all the way forward. We're going to come into a low lunge. On an inhale, sweep those arms up. You're going to be bored of hearing me say this. Make sure your hips are square. So for any kind of lunges, whatever leg is in front, pull that back. Whatever leg is behind, hip comes forward, and that'll square them off for you. Squeezing those glutes in. Inhale here. And then on an exhale, just grabbing your block. You're just going to place it behind your left foot, reaching those hands up, coming into almost like a reverse lunge. Hands placed on your block. Inhale here, feeling a nice stretch in our right hip flexors. Then exhale, placing our right hand nice and wide, opening up the chest to the left hand side. And then we're going to bring our left hand just to the can't speak, just to hold on to our head here. And then we're also just going to lean as if we're coming into a slight back bend. Keep pushing that arm away, keep making sure your shoulder isn't collapsing in. And then inhale, placing both hands to the inside edge of your left foot. We're just going to heel to it to the outer edge of our mat, just coming into a lizard variation here. So you might just want to scoot your right leg back a little bit. So left foot toes to 10 o'clock, chest nice and open, sinking the right hip down. Being active through that left knee, so making sure it's not dropping too far out to the side. Taking some breaths here. And we're going to transition from our lizard into our side plank, facing the left hand side. So if you want to come with me, or you can go back to your plank and then go into your side plank. So if your back knee is down, picking up your back knee, grounding down through both hands, lifting your left foot, placing on top of your right foot, and then spinning onto your right hand, coming into your side plank, and then picking up your left foot and just setting it in front. So that gives you a bit of stability. And keep, as if someone was pushing your right hip to lift you up. Taking a couple of breaths there. And now we're going to take a really fun transition. We're going to spin our hips to face down towards the mat, then open them up to the right hand side, and then we're going to come to sit down. I'm sure I explained that really well. So we're going to come so that our right leg is out nice and straight, our left foot is now bent, and the sole of our left foot is in towards our right leg. So I'll spin around so you can see that. We're going to inhale to reach up, turning our torso, and then exhale, keeping our spine nice and long, folding over that right leg. And if it is quite far away and you want to place a block on your shin, you can. Just having a little bit of a hamstring stretch here, while still grounding down through that right leg and that right hip. And as you feel your torso get a bit heavy, you might feel a nice opening in your left side body. Taking a couple of breaths there. I'm just going to spin round so I'm in the same position as you to cover this transition. And then exhale, come up, placing both hands to the front of your mat, spinning on our back foot, and then coming up to our plank position. Dropping to our knees. Inhale our shoulders over our wrists, shifting our weight forward, keeping our elbows in nice and tight, pulling your tummy up, exhaling, lowering all the way down to the mat, untucking your toes, pushing your toes into the mat, squeezing those elbows in, open through the chest, coming into your cobra, then exhale, pushing back to your child's pose. And then inhale, coming up onto our all fours, keeping that 90-degree angle with our knee. We're just going to lift our right foot back this time, flexing your toes, and you can peek behind you to make sure your foot isn't splaying out to the side, and then bringing it back down. Inhale to lift it up, activating through the hamstrings and the lower part of our glutes, bringing it back down. Inhale to reach it up, then bringing it back. This time it's going to come all the way forward, stepping forward, coming into our low lunge. So we're going to inhale, reaching up, exhale, sinking in. So just like the other side, front knee, back hip, forward. And make sure we're not splaying out through the ribs here. We just want to have some kind of activation through our core. Reaching out of those hands. Placing our block this time behind our right leg. Reaching our left hand up. Coming into a reverse low lunge. So as if someone was grabbing your left hand and reaching up, creating loads of length from our left knee all the way up. One more breath there. Then exhale, placing our left hand wide out to the side, peeling our heart open to the right, keeping activation with your legs here. So make sure their hips aren't splaying out to the right hand side. You want to think about tucking your hip under. And then just cradling your head in your right hand, and then just coming into a bit of a back bend here. So opening through the chest, shining the heart up towards the ceiling. Finding expansion across your collarbones. Then exhale, placing that right hand to the inside edge of the foot, heel toeing your foot. So it's out mat width this time, big toe to 2 o'clock. And then coming into a lizard here. So really getting into that left hip flexor while also getting into our right hip. If you want to increase the intensity in the left leg, you can just pick that leg up and you'll feel your hip flexor start singing at you. Taking a couple of breaths, sending the breath wherever your body needs to, and with every exhale getting rid of something that no longer serves you, any tension that's maybe you're releasing. Then we're going to make that transition onto plank. So our plank is we're going to open up our plank to the right hand side, our left hand's going to be on the ground. Just taking one more inhale in your lizard, exhale, spinning to the knife edge of your left foot as your right foot comes to meet it, coming into our side plank, and then we're just going to place our right foot in front of our hip. Reaching up, as if someone's tickling your left waist. Active through your hands. And then we're going to do that funky transition again into our fold. So bringing both hands onto the mat, spinning to the balls of both feet, then spinning all the way around so that our right hip comes down to the earth. Our left leg this time is nice and straight. Right foot is in towards our body. So I'll spin around so you can see. So we're just in this position but on the other side. Inhale to find length through your waist, grinding those hips down, reaching your hands up, and then keeping that waist nice and long, just folding over that left leg. Again, placing blocks on the ground if you need to. And sending your breath all along the back of your leg. Finding just a moment of stillness in your practice. Taking a couple more breaths here. Then placing your hands to face directly at the front of the mat, picking up your hips, stepping back into your plank. So we're just going to hold our plank here for a couple of breaths. So really pushing our heels away from us, thinking about having that angry cat back, so pushing the ground away, bringing our pubic bone towards our sternum, feeling the front body light up. Elbows are going to face towards our knees, so your elbow joints are behind you. Taking one more breath here. Exhale, dropping to the knees, keeping that core engagement Inhale, shifting your shoulders over your wrist, and exhale, hugging those elbows in, lowering all the way down to the mat. We're going to come into an exalted cobra this time. So fingers are going to be out to the side, facing forward, elbows are up towards the sky. Inhale to roll your nose forward, lifting your chin, lifting your chest. Really pushing those legs into the mat, all 10 toes down. Then exhale, lower it back down, pushing back into your child's pose. I'm just taking a couple of breaths here. So maybe your breath got a little bit increased there during the flow. Just connecting back with your breath. And then slowly peeling ourselves up, coming into our all fours, picking up our left leg. We're just going to step our left foot forward, coming into that low lunge again, but keeping our hands on the ground. And if you do have tight hamstrings, you might want to have your block handy. And then we're just going to shift our weight back so that our left leg comes to straighten. It doesn't need to completely straighten. You might need to scoot your left hip forward a little bit. So we're coming into half splits here. So right hip is directly above the right knee. Placing your hands and you want on your hips, just making sure they're both facing forward so that your left hip isn't jerking out to the side there. Inhale to find some lengthened spine, and then exhale, folding over. So just like we did with our half straddle fold. And if you are tight, you can just place a block just behind your knee here and rise up. And you want to think about being active through the feet. So we warmed the feet up at the start of class. You want to keep that activation. So spreading your toes and pulling your toes back towards your knee. Taking one more breath here. Then exhale, we're going to snake ourselves forward. Pick up our back legs. We're coming into a runner's lunge. So just like being at the start of a race, you want to be really buoyant on your back foot here. So active through that right quad. Hips are nice and square. We're squeezing those outer hips in. Placing our right hand off the side of the mat, we're going to come into another nice twist here. Opening our chest up. And you're welcome to come into that back bend variation, holding onto your head if you want. So nice scissoring action with our legs, squeezing them together. So remember we had our block in between our knees at the start of class. So imagine there was a block and we had to squeeze it in together. Taking one more breath here. Then exhale, bringing your hands back down to the mat, stepping back into your plank. And you're welcome to lower to your knees, or if you think you have your core engagement, shifting your shoulders over your wrist, lowering all the way down to the mat nice and slowly. Untucking the toes. We're going to bring our hands down beside our hips, spinning the palms in. On an inhale, lifting our chin and our chest up, grounding down through our feet, coming into our half locust pose. Squeezing the shoulder blades. Then exhale, placing your hands down, pushing back into our child's pose. Couple of breaths just to regroup. And slowly peeling the spine up, nice and rounded spine, then coming into our nice neutral back, picking up our right leg behind us and stepping our right foot forward, shifting our weight back so our right leg starts to straighten. If you need to even move your heel forward a little bit, you can. Hips nice and square, left hip directly above your left knee here. And then flexing your toes towards your right knee. And just having a slight bend in that right leg. If we completely straighten out the right leg, it can be quite jarring on the joints. And it's more of like a nerve stretch, not necessarily stretching internal ligaments. So taking an inhale here, finding nice length in our spine, then exhale, starting to fold over. And again, if you want to put your block in, so you're bringing the ground a little bit closer, you can. And you want to think about dragging that right heel back towards you, and that'll really stretch into behind your knee and behind your quads and into your calves, while also neutralizing that hip. Taking one more breath here, then exhale, rolling into our low lunge. Hands are going to come down to frame that foot, tucking our back toes, lifting our back heels, coming into that runner's lunge. squeezing those legs together. So active through both legs here. So it should never be a lazy pose. So really active. It's just like I said, as if you could launch forward. Then keeping that activation in your legs, placing your left hand wide, peeling your heart open to the right hand side. Even putting your hand in that little crease of your right hip, and think about pushing that right hip back, and that's the position you want it to be in. So squeezing your right glutes. Picking up your tummy just to twist a little bit more again. You can rest your hand on your head if you want to expand even more through your chest. Depends how your back's feeling after sitting potentially at a computer all day. Taking one more breath here, then exhale, placing your hands down, bringing that front foot, stepping back into your plank. Welcome to drop to the knees if you want, or inhale over your wrist, keeping that plank shape, lowering all the way down to your mat, untucking your toes. This time we're going to come into a full locust pose, or you can come into your half locust. So hands are going to come behind you, spin your palms to face your hips, really push out through your hands as you lift your chest up, squeeze your shoulder blades, then engaging through your hamstrings, maybe hover your feet off the ground. And really importantly, keep your breath with you in this pose. Taking one more inhale, maybe lift a little bit higher, then exhale, lowering all the way down to the mat, pushing back into your child's pose. And then just walking your hands back to meet your knees, scooting your hips out to the side, and we're going to come to lie on our back. And then just making sure you have your block or your book handy. We're just going to come into a bridge just like we did at the start of class. So taking everything that we've learned in class today about our hip position, the engagement, the squeezing of it in, not putting our block in between our knees this time. We're going to inhale to peel the spine off the earth, pushing into your heels, feeling your hamstrings engaged, lifting your hips up, tucking your tailbone slightly under, and then lifting our right foot up, keeping the hips nice and neutral, bringing it back down, lifting your left foot up. You're doing really well. Bringing it back down, then one more, lifting it up on your tippy toes. And then slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, bringing your spine all the way back down to the mat. And we're going to do another bridge, but don't worry, this one's going to be nice. Inhale, lifting your hips up, and then just taking your block or your book, you're just going to place it on that nice flat part of the spine where we put our block when we were doing our bird dogs. So just picking a height that's comfortable for you. So you might need to move about a bit just to find that sweet spot. It's basically just above your bum and before you get into the nice curve at the bottom of your spine. So if you do have a book, it might be a bit nippy, so you might just want to put your blanket up to pad it. And props are there in yoga to support us, so don't feel like you can't put your full weight into your block. Really sink down. Imagine you had like a sandbag placed across your hips, being really heavy on that block. And just taking a couple of deep breaths here. Just letting our breath return to a nice normal pace. Exhaling out anything that maybe came up for you during that practice. Any frustrations that maybe came up when the block kept falling off your back, or any deep opening that you experienced. Just taking 2 more breaths here. And if you have your block on maybe the medium setting, just pushing into your feet and just flipping it so it's on the lowest setting. So what we mean by setting is basically height away from the mat. And then we're just going to pick our feet up and flexing our toes towards our face, so that our hips are just really slightly off the mat, and the tilt of our pelvis is slightly different. We're just coming into a variation of a supported shoulder stand here. So just let your legs get really heavy here, and they might start to fall just slightly towards your face, and that's absolutely fine. And having no kind of activation here, so let your knees slowly bend, your ankles become quite lazy, your feet flop out to the side maybe. Just as we start to feel everything that we've done in class today start to drain out from our legs. You might feel little kind of movements, or as horrible as it sounds, little tiny feelings of like things touching your skin as it all starts to drain away. Your body starts to relax. Taking one more breath here. And exhale, just bring the soles of your feet down to the mat. Just lifting your hips just so you can slide your block or your book out of the way. Bringing your hips back down to the earth, and then lifting your feet back up to the sky, and then bringing your knees in towards your shoulders, just coming into a happy baby pose. So either grabbing behind your thighs or the inner outer soles of your feet. Letting your knees go out to the side and the tailbone down to the earth. So as if your knees and your tailbone were the 3 points of the triangle, and they're trying to move away from one another. And just let the weight of your shoulders pull your feet down. Maybe starting to soften your gaze or close down your eyes as we're starting to really slow the practice down. Taking 2 more breaths in this pose. And then when you're done with your exhale, just slowly releasing your feet, bringing your feet onto the mat. And then just shifting your hips slightly over to the right hand side, letting both knees drop over to the left, just coming into a supine twist. So just bringing your hands wherever is comfortable for you, so maybe directly out to side or overhead. Just letting your whole body sink down into the earth. Letting go of anything. As we start to prepare our body for a relaxing Shavasana. Just wringing out those final little niggles. And then inhale, bringing your legs back through the center, then exhale, shifting your hips slightly to the left as we drop our knees to the right. Letting everything become super heavy. Knowing there's no expectations. Nothing's expected of you. Then in your next inhale, bringing your knees back through the center, and if you have a blanket handy and you want to, placing your blanket across your body just for your Shavasana. So we're going to bring our feet nice and wide, creating loads of space for those lovely hips that we talked so much about in class. And then just bringing your hands wherever is comfortable, so maybe on your tummy or down by your side. And then just making sure your shoulders are rolled down your back, you'll loads of space for your neck. And we're just going to finish with one more bumblebee breath as a group. So taking a deep inhale together, exhale at a sigh, inhale, then exhale a long bumblebee breath. Just finding stillness and peace here in your Shavasana for another couple of moments.